abandoned occurred before he met Alfred Swancourt in the novel. This past event is a significant part of Henry's backstory and contributes to his complex and somewhat troubled character. But it is also an ultimate reality that Alfred and Henry have fallen in love for each other from head to toe. As Alfred navigates her relationships with Stephen and Henry, she must also contend with her own desires and sense of identity. She is torn between her love for Stephen, who represents a simpler, more rustic way of life, and her attraction to Henry, who embodies the sophistication and culture she longs for. And during this relationship, they have many secret meetings at Beanie Cliff. Yes, Henry had suggested meeting Alfred at Beanie Cliff, and she agreed. This secret meeting marks the beginning of their illicit romance. I always find nature and destiny very cruel to all the characters in Hardy's novels. Whether this is Tess or Eustacia Fye or even Alfred Swancourt, destiny is always hard upon them. Now, as they both of them have fallen in love with each other, and it seems that they will have a very happy ending, but unfortunately there is another twist in the story. The past affair of Stephen Smith and Alfred Swancourt comes into the knowledge of Mr. Henry. After this acknowledgement, Alfred finds herself ashamed and she finds herself unworthy for the love of Mr. Henry. But there is still another turn in the story. Alfred rejected Henry Knight because he had discovered her past indiscretion with Stephen Smith, and she felt ashamed and unworthy of him. And then she makes another decision. Alfred agrees to marry Lord Luxellian due to her father's wishes and to escape the shame and gossip surrounding her past relationships. In the start of the story, I have told you that Henry and Stephen Smith both were traveling in the train because they were both going to Cromwell to attend the marriage ceremony of Alfred. Alfred marries Lord Luxellian due to social pressure and the material security, as he is wealthy and offers a higher social status. Before marrying Lord Luxellian, Alfred plans a final meeting with Henry Knight on the same cliff, Blenny. On such a stormy night, Alfred goes to meet Henry, in fact, to return some literary papers which belong to Henry Knight. But unfortunately, she attempts to climb down a steep and treacherous cliff to meet Henry, and Henry is waiting below. But tragically, Alfred loses her footing and falls to her death on the rocks below. The scene is described in vivid and poignant detail by Hardy, emphasizing the senseless tragedy of Alfred's demise. Henry Knight kept on waiting on the same cliff, but Alfred never reaches there. After Alfred's fall from the cliff, her body is washed ashore by the tides. Meanwhile, Henry Knight, who had been waiting for Alfred at the bottom of the cliff, he thinks that Alfred never arrived there, so he kept on waiting, and after all, he went away. When the train arrives at Cromwell, Henry Knight and Stephen Smith both see a coffin on the platform which was carried by some of the passengers. When they ask about the coffin, they were told that this coffin, this dead body, was being carried to the native place, Cromwell, and this dead body was, of course, that was of Alfred Swancourt, who had pale blue and who had been the most loved person by both of them. I hope you will have liked the story. Definitely, I will come up with something new in my next videos. So keep waiting, keep subscribing, and keep supporting my channel. Thanks for being with Mehreen.
Man has many a choice and he is desirous of choosing and tasting more than one alternative. He wishes to eat his cake and still have it. This passion of man has been expressed in the poem The Road Not Taken. Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to my channel. That's Learn with Mehreen and I am Mehreen. I hope you would be enjoying Frost series. In this connection, I have come with another of Frost's famous poem, The Road Not Taken. Let's move towards the text without any delay. Two roads diverge in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both, and could be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down, one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. The poet stood bewildered, lost, and confused at a point where the road diverged in a yellow wood. He stood at the forking point for a long time, looking at one of the roads till it bent and disappeared in the wood. The poem is all about crucial moments in choice making. Every one of us throughout our lives is faced with such junctures where we have to make some choices or decisions. Then took the other as just as fair and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Now, as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. Then, after a little bit of confusion and thought-provoking moments, then the poet decides to take the other one that looked equally good and in a way preferred because it appeared to be less frequented. The grass on it indicated that not many people had walked that way. The message lies beneath the surface is that the two roads symbolize two different approaches of life, the traditional and sophisticated one. Decision making is a challenging affair for every one of us. We have to draw, and we have to draw on wisdom, knowledge, and experience while making any choice in our lives. Let's move towards the next lines. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet, knowing how way leads one to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. In these lines, poet expresses that he chooses a path which is less visited. Then he realizes immediately that there was no real difference. One looked like the other. Both appeared to have equally been traveled, and that morning both were covered with leaves, no footprints on them. According to the poet, choice is
more than one alternative. He wishes to eat his cake and still have it. This passion of man has been expressed in the poem The Road Not Taken. Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to my channel. That's Learn with Mehreen, and I am Mehreen. I hope you would be enjoying Frost series. In this connection, I have come with another of Frost's famous poem, The Road Not Taken. Let's move towards the text without any delay. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both, and could be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it went in the undergrowth. The poet stood bewildered, lost and confused at a point where the road diverged in a yellow wood. He stood at the forking point for a long time, looking at one of the roads till it bent and disappeared in the wood. The poem is all about crucial moments in choice making. Every one of us throughout our lives is faced with such junctures where we have to make some choices or decisions. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Thou as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. Then after a little bit of confusion and thought-provoking moments, then the poet decides to take the other one that looked equally good and in a way preferred because it appeared to be less frequented. The grass on it indicated that not many people had walked that way. The message lies beneath the surface is that the two roads symbolize two different approaches of life, the traditional and the sophisticated one. Decision making is a challenging affair for every one of us. We have to draw and we have to draw on wisdom, knowledge, and experience while making any choice in our lives. Let's move towards the next lines. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads one to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. In these lines, poet expresses that he chooses a path which is less visited. Then he realizes immediately that there was no real difference. One looked like the other. Both appeared to have equally been traveled, and that morning both were covered with leaves, no footprints on them. According to the poet, choice is something inevitable for every one of us in our lives. And of course, choices do have their consequences too, good or bad. we have to bear, and most of the time we are left with no alternatives after we have settled on one. The last 5 lines of the poem are very important, as in every poem of Frost. The last lines are very important and they carry a deep message. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. In these lines, the poet has apprehensions of being left with no alternatives if he chooses one and leaves the other. He still has fears that having gone a long way along the chosen path, he may someday look back somewhere ages and ages hence and regret his choice, which happens with all of us once in a time. And then it would be too late to retrieve his loss. One has therefore to take one's chance by flipping a coin in the air. The poet wavers in his choices. The poet wavers in his choice making and gives expressions to his fears regarding his choice. Each stanza of the poem consists of 5 lines. There are no parentheses, no dashes, no pauses or exclamations that are generally found in lyrics. Their absence makes the poem a simple and comprehensive reading. I hope you all have enjoyed this piece of art, and thanks for watching. Keep on liking and supporting my videos. Thank you so much.
पाकिस्तान में हर 2 में से 1 बच्ची तालीम से महरूम है। एक मजबूत माँ ये बदल सकती है। आए सराहें उन माँओं को जो
Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to my channel Let's Learn with Mehreen, and I am Mehreen. Today in this video we are going to talk about the poem After Apple Picking, which has been written by Robert Frost. And as all of you know that he was an American poet, if you want to get the full introduction of Robert Frost, please visit my channel, and there you can find the magic of other poets and writers also. This poem, After Apple Picking, has been appreciated for its charming and enchanting beauty. The poem has a particular wisdom to communicate. It is neither a dramatic narrative nor a thought-provoking philosophical poem. It would be aptest to call it a nature lyric. Apple picking symbolizes life's hardness and weariness. Now let's move towards the text of the poem. I would read the first 8 lines and then I will explain it. My long two-pointed ladder sticking through a tree toward heaven still, and there's a barrel that I didn't fill beside it, and there may be 2 or 3 apples I didn't pick upon some bough, but I am done with apple picking now. Essence of winter sleep in on the night, the scent of apples I am drowsing off. The scene of the poem is set perhaps in poet's own orchard, where he is standing on a long two-pointed ladder. The poet starts with one experience of fatigue, reverie, and tiredness. Poet is half done with his task and still to go more. In these lines, nature imagery is present, plus with the flavor of a monologue. An apple picker stands for a common man. And drowsiness in the line number 8 is a symbol of fatigue which one can experience during the cycle of seasons. As I have discussed the symbols in the poem, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, same is the case here in these lines in this poem also. There is a lot of symbol which we are going to experience more. I cannot rub the strangeness from my sight I got from looking through a pane of glass I skimmed this morning from the drinking trough and held against the world of hoary grass. It melted and I let it fall and break, but I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell, and I could tell what form my dreaming was about to take. Magnified apples appear and disappear, stem end and blossom end, and every fleck of russet showing clear. After reading these lines, we come to know that poet is in a kind of trance, reverie, or drowsiness. Poet goes from real to unreal, familiar to unfamiliar. The ice which he had collected in the morning from the surface of the drinking water in a trough, he sees the things from this melting ice which seems to him strange. The image of trough you can observe on your screens. There is another word, hoary grass. Its image is also provided for you. Although poet sees all these things every day, but these objects appear to him strange, blurred, and carry a dreamlike quality. There is a similarity between Frost and Keats' Ode to Nightingale. It is a journey from real to unreal. Poet can see magnifying apples and even the fleck of russet very clearly, yet he is in a... My instep arch not only keeps the ache, it keeps the pressure of a ladder round. I feel the ladder sway as the bows bend, and I keep hearing from the cellar bin the rumbling sound of load and load of apples coming in. For I have had too much of apple picking. I am overtired of the great harvest I myself desired. There were 10,000 fruit to touch, cherish in hand, lift down and not let fall. For all that struck the earth, no matter if not bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap. We can observe a blend of simplicity and symbolism in the poem. Apple picker is steadily standing on the ladder despite of his drowsiness and tiredness, but the pressure he keeps of the ladder round makes him more fatigued. It is also a poem about the effort of writing poetry. The cider apple heap then makes a nice metaphor for saved and recycled bits of poetry. The task of apple picking is suggested as not only a task, but it is life. The drowsiness which the speaker feels after the completion of the task is associated with the cycle of seasons. There were 10,000 fruits to touch. This line instantly brings to mind the line of daffodils. 10,000 saw I at a glance. As of no worth, one can see what will trouble this sleep of mine. Whatever sleep it is, were he not gone, the woodchuck could say whether it's like his long sleep, as I describe its coming on, or just some human sleep. A touch of mystery is imparted to the entire aura. The apple picker is not sure whether his sleep is the ordinary sleep of human beings or the long winter hibernation of creatures of nature like the woodchuck. Woodchuck has been used as a metaphor here. Finally, we can say that after apple picking is one of those poems which offer a rare blend of simplicity and symbolism.